right, ladies and gentlemen, put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me. I think I messed up my sound a little bit today when I was resetting my board. So if you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat. If you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat, please. All right, let me make sure I'm good for y'all so we can have this conversation. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me. 1 in the chat if you can hear me. All right, it's good to see you guys today, man. I just want to hop on for a few minutes and talk about the elephant in the room per se. The elephant in the room is, black on black crime. We talk about it amongst each other. We ridicule each other about it, right? We ridicule each other about it. We have other cultures of people talking about it. And it's out there. It really bad. And so I want to start. So for anybody that wants to come up, who's watching, who wants to come up and be a part of the conversation, I've already put the link in the chat. So you're welcome to come up and share in this conversation with me. I would love to have you because I think this is a conversation that everybody needs to have. And so feel free to hit that button to come on up. Also hit the like button, subscribe button if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it if you guys would support the channel as well. But yeah, so let's just hop right into it. Earlier today, I was watching Bill Maher. If you're a fan of Bill Maher, you know that Bill Maher is, sometimes all over the place. Sometimes he has some relevant points. But Bill Maher had this to say, and it's a small clip that we'll play throughout as people are coming in. Also, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, let everybody know that I'm live because these are pop-up lives, I call them. These are pop-up lives. So thank you so much for being here, the ones who are here. But I'll play this video throughout the day because this is going to be the subject of what we're talking about on today. All right. So let me go ahead and play Mr. Bill Maher, and we'll go from there. Give me just a second here. All right. Let's get Mr. Bill Maher to come to the altar. Here we go.
Kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million because they keep getting returned to the streets. Like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct? Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, "What are you doing?"
All right, so that's Bill Maher in a quick clip of him speaking about black on black crime and talking about crime in New York. Again, guys, the link is in the chat. Yes, I did get your email, Clement Gray. Thank you for always updating me and keeping me in the green when it comes to the news and things that are happening around the world. Thank you so much for being that for me. I appreciate you. Keep sending it. Keep sending it. I appreciate it. Shout out to Clement Gray, guys, who is also a member of the channel as well. So I appreciate you, man, for sending everything. Happy Sunday, Realistic Vibes. If you're not doing anything, you're like I said again, the link is in the chat. If anybody feel free to come on up. Make sure you show your face before you come into place, so I won't get kicked out the place. All right. So again, back to what Bill Maher said. Again, I want to play it one more time for the people that are just coming in. If you just came in, hit the like button, share button, subscribe button. You want to donate to the channel, you see it scrolling at the bottom of the day. Sundays and Saturdays are Cash App days. We want to send a Cash App for your boy. Send a Cash App for your boy. Thank you for being here, Snuggles 668. Thank you for being here. Realistic Vibes as well. Tez Defy, all right, from the 5100 podcast. Make sure you go and subscribe to those great content creators. I appreciate you guys for being here. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to the conversation. So Bill Maher had something to say about black on black crime. I'll play it again because I know some people just walked through the door, and I want to play this one more time. Here we go.
Like crime is kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million because they keep getting returned to the streets. Like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct? Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, "What are you doing?"
right, guys. So listen, let me hear your thoughts in the chat. Now, while Mr. Bill Maher was saying that, I want to bring it back to the forefront of what's happening here. We talk about black on black crime, so I did a little investigating. I did a little digging. And somebody out there that's watching right now, reach out to information, man. I would love to have him over here. I forgot to send him the information, but I didn't want to take away from the show by leaning down and texting and all this other stuff. However, I may do that anyway. Yeah, so if anybody can reach out to information, man, let him know that we are live. And I would love to have his perspective because it would be well invited. But so I did a little research, and in my research, I went to the U.S. Department of Justice, the Office of Justice Programs, and this is what I found. I want to pull it up for you guys here. We'll go through it parenthetically here to try to get an understanding of what the justice system is saying. I mean, the United States Department of Justice is saying about black on black crime. Let me share the screen with you guys, and we'll go through it. Let's see here. All right, there it is. So it's very short. I wanted to download it, but I wasn't able to download it. So let me get myself out of it. Okay. So if you guys could see that, you'll see that it says it here. These are the receipts, of course, and we can start here. And I have some other articles that we can also read as well. But it says here, we're going to go through this today. All right. I'm going to definitely be in the chat today. So guys, if you want to say something in the chat, I'm definitely going to acknowledge everything that you said in the chat, good, bad, or indifferent. All I ask is that you respect the host. Also, all I ask is that you respect each other in the chat, being a part of this serious conversation. Okay, so as you can see here, black on black crime, the myth and the reality. This is coming from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs. All right, it says, even though most urban street crimes are committed by low-income blacks against their peers, right? So let's start there. Even though most urban street crimes are committed by low-income blacks against their peers, greater risk to the survival and unity of black communities stem from police brutality, industrial negligence, and consumer fraud by ghetto merchants. All right, that's the annotation. Now the abstract, if we scroll down a little bit here, says an acceptance of the belief that crime by blacks against other blacks poses the single greatest threat to black survival presents any in-depth analysis of the root causes of urban crime. A more fundamental cause may be class conflict resulting from inequities in a capitalist society. Recommendations for change include raising the consciousness of black leaders and the formation of anti-crime groups within low-income communities. 25 references are listed. All right. Now it says here to find this in their library. So I'll click here just to see what happens. I didn't see that earlier when I was doing the research. It says you're now leaving. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I want to pull this up because it's important. Okay, so they're telling me where I can go, the library that's closest to me, where I can get this information. That is okay. That's cool. That's cool. That gives you the nearest place in Dallas where I can go and get that. So, okay, so this is where we are. All right. So let's get back to Bill Maher again.
Kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million. Because they keep getting returned to the streets. Like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct? Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, what are you doing?
All right. So he's calling on celebrities to basically get out into the world and show and show up and show out for Black crime, be there. I think that where I disagree with him wholeheartedly is that I disagree with him based on the fact that he's saying what he's saying and he's not doing it, right? I think it's going to take everybody. Let me get myself out of this because it's not about me. So everybody can see what we're looking at. It's going to take everybody here. It's going to take everybody to literally step up and step out to make a difference. White, Black, Hispanic, whoever is living in the communities. I even will go even further to say, if you're profiting off of our communities, you should be able to step in as well. All right? Because we have a lot of men, per se. Let me get back on the screen here. We have a lot of men who's in these spaces. I hate saying spaces because it makes me cringe. But we have a lot of men in these spaces, in these cases, that say, you know what? These men out here, Black on Black crime this and Black on Black crime there, and they have no resume of doing anything in the community. Louis Farrakhan said something one time that really, really stuck with me and really, really resonated with me when he said, if you're talking about Black on Black crime and the crime in our communities and you choose to do nothing about it, you need to shut up. So Bill Maher, I want to be able to see all those millions of dollars that HBO is paying you. How about you create some programs as well? Because we all know that you like Black women. You love Black vagina. So we've seen you out in public on dates with Black women and dating Black women. You talked about sex with Black women being different than any other thing that you've ever experienced. Are you willing to invest in that Black community? Because if you're willing to invest in that Black community, that'd be great. Now, when we just read this, let me bring it back up here. When we just read this, it stated Black on Black crime, the myth and the reality. All right. It also talked about, in the first annotation, it says, even though most urban street crimes are committed by low-income Blacks against their peers, greater risk to the survival and unity of Black communities stem from police brutality. It stems from industrial negligence and consumer fraud by ghetto merchants. Right? Orlando Deuce is saying one thing, which I have to be, accountable for too. We had another show on Tuesday when we talked about nutrition, right? Myself and dieting, right? Getting myself right, getting myself together as far as dieting, right? Because that's one of the things that's taking us out too: heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, right? But the thing that we highlight the most is not telling people what their grocery list should look like. We're telling people that we're killing each other. And that's not the leading cause of death in our community. It's our health. It's our eating habits. And can we blame that on ourselves? Or can we blame that on the climate that we're in? Right? The climate that we are in. So again, Black on Black crime, the myth and the reality. If you wanted to see this, all you have to do is simply go, as you see at the top of the screen, the United States Department of Justice put this out here. As you can see here, it says Crime and Social Justice Issue 20, pages 50 through 62. They no longer let you download it. I don't know why, because if it was downloadable, I definitely would have had it for you guys today and we would have went through it. But it's not downloadable, so yeah, that's that. And then if you go down a little bit, let's see here. Yeah. So if you want to read this, guys, and you want to keep this for your show, if you're a content creator, or for your home, all you have to do is go to the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, and go under here. As you can see, I'm circling the mouse on it here, the NCJRS library. All right. You can go to that library there. And so I can definitely put the link in the chat as well. I think that'll be easier for you guys. If I did that, not just drop that in the chat for everybody. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. And so everybody can have it. There it is in the chat right now, if you guys want to read up on that. All right. Then I went and did a little bit more digging, and I was able to find something else. Let me pull that down. I was able to find something else on the subject matter as well. that I think is amazing that we should go through as well. Vox 5, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Vox 5. They're an after-school alliance committee for academics. And afterschoolalliance.org, which I'll also drop their link that I'm about to pull up in the chat as well. You guys can look at it on your own when you're off the live. I'll definitely put that in there. Let's see what we got here. All right, there we go. So I also dropped that link as well that I'm about to pull up right now from Vox 5. As you can see, the website is for that. And so I'm going to go ahead and present my screen on that for you guys, and we'll go through that as well. Let's see here. Just stop that one. And I'm going to go pull up this one for you guys. Let's see what we got here. All right, there it is. So if we look at this, we can see Vox 5 at the top screen here in the red. You say you can't talk about the police until you stop killing each other. Well, what about black on black crime? Black people kill each other more than any other race is what the article is saying. Keep in mind, guys, thank you for being here. If you just came in, hit the like button, subscribe button as we move forward. And if you want to come on, you definitely can look in the chat and see that I do have the link in the chat for you. I have dropped the link for you guys. If you didn't get that, I'll drop it again for you guys real quick. I would love to have a conversation with people who agree and disagree with the matter. All right, so Vox 5, reasons why black on black crime is not a valid argument against the Black Lives Matter movement. Now we know there are some discrepancies in the Black Lives Matter movement. All right, and so I'm not here to justify anything for them. I'm not here to make light of anything that I've heard, seen, read, discovered, looked into. This is just only for educational purposes, not their personal beliefs, but what this article is saying, because they didn't write the article. Okay, now I did not get an opportunity per se to read this throughout, because I wanted it to be authentic. So I didn't want to read it. I wanted this to be a regular and normal and natural reaction. All right. All right, give me just a second. Okay, here we go. All right, I got it. So if we look here, it says Vox 5, reasons why black on black crime is not a valid argument against the Black Lives Matter movement. It says the Black Lives Matter movement focus has always, let me make it bigger so you guys can read it here. Let me get myself out of there. All right, if you could see that, guys. The Black Lives Matter movement focus has always been to advocate for black people killed at the hands of police. However, a common question raised by the opposers of the Black Lives Matter movement is why the movement isn't as vocal when a black person is killed by another black person. The argument being used here is that black activists address black on black crime. They have no right to be outraged over police violence. Basically what they're saying here, guys, if we stop here for just a second, they're saying you ain't got no right as a black person to argue about a police officer shooting a black unarmed man or choking one out, shooting whether they're children, teenagers, or adults. You shouldn't be complaining about police brutality. Now, when black on black crime is there. Now, I will say this as a pushback to that first line and that first sentence of this article is that when Pookie shoots Reginald, Pookie goes to jail. When Sergeant Baltimore shoots Pookie, Baltimore gets desk duty and goes home to his family. Unless the evidence is wildly provable, he gets desk duty for a while until things die down, and then they put him right back out in the streets. This is fact. All right. So that's my only pushback on that. All right. So let's get down to the meat of it. Again, let's get back to it. It says, while you mostly see this being used by conservatives and right-winged media, even Democratic politicians are black on black crime to deflect attention off corrupt police forces. Since many recorded instances of police brutality from Atlanta have gone viral, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has been very vocal in her opposition to the people who looted the city during the BLM protests, famously yelling for protesters to go home in press conferences after demonstrators vandalized the CNN Center. More recently, after an 8-year-old girl was deleted at the same Wendy's where Rashard Brooks was deleted, Keisha stated in the aftermath that we're doing each other more harm than any officer on this force. Okay? So if we look at that, let's just break that down. I remember when Keisha Lance Bottoms got online when that Wendy's situation happened, when the young man was deleted by police officers who was running away from the police officers. He was shot in the back. Let's just start there. In these protests, this is factual. When you want something done and you want the media to focus on it, the media controls the minds of everyone. Let's just be real. There have been situations, I have been a part of a lot of protests in the past where the media would put out one thing and in reality it was something completely different. There are a lot of organizations who don't like Black people, let's talk about it, who will go down to these demonstrations and pretend to be supporters and go down and be the first one to throw the brick through the window, first one to throw a cocktail through a window, a first one to vandalize a store. Right? I'm not saying that our people don't do it, because Martin Luther King said rioting is the voices of the unheard. So, but there are planted people who are organized to go into these riots, so-called riots, or go into protest and start stuff. There are people who go to these riots and these protests to just start violence, to start crazy stuff. That's just exactly what it is. And so in buildings, I mean, people, they're worried about buildings being burned to the ground, but they're not worried about the men who got put in the ground by the very police. The difference between Pookie and Darian is Pookie shoots Darian, Pookie goes to jail, gets life, another Black man off the street, another Black man in the ground. But when Officer Thomason shoots Pookie, he gets death duty. I say it again. So let's continue on here. Thank you again for being here. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And hit the share button and share this. I see that people are coming in now. Thank you for being here. Also hit that like button. Let me know that you're in here. Information Man, brother, thank you so much for being here. The link is in the chat, man. If you're not doing anything, please pull up on me because, man, you are very knowledgeable in this area, man. And I would just love to have you be a part of this conversation, man. The link is in the chat, man. It's so good to see you, brother. If you haven't subscribed to Information Man, please subscribe to this intelligent Black man who is out in the streets making things happen, working with young men, working with men who have mental issues. He's doing the work. Nobody can call Information Man out about anything because he's in this. He's in the community, right? He's doing his job. So please, guys, if you have not subscribed to this man, Information Man, please, please, please. There he is right there. Information Man, peace and respect, brother. Same to you. Would love to have you be a part of this, man. Just drop the link again in the chat. All right. So again, back to what I was saying. Many people, let's start back on here. Let's just jump right back in. Many people think that waving and wagging the finger at Black people for killing each other is going to help fix the problem. However, using Black on Black crime to legitimize the Black Lives Matter movement is not rational whatsoever. Here's 5 reasons why Black on Black crime is not a valid argument against the BLM movement. Black on Black crime is literally just crime. Oftentimes, when people bring up Black on Black crime, they are implying that Black people are more violent towards each other than any other race. This is wrong because nearly every race is likely to be deleted by their own due to proximity. 82.4% of white people are deleted by white people. This is due to the fact that many neighborhoods in America are still segregated by race. Of course, if one day decide to delete someone, you're probably going to delete someone who lives in your area and looks like you. Why is it that no one mentions white on white crime? When a white person deletes a white person, that's because the phrase black on black crime is only used to stomp down on the black community and no one else. That's what it's saying here, and no one else. All right, that's a little bird out. Let me bring it up again. There we go. All right. And if you can't see it, all right, give me just a second. All right, can you guys hear me? All right, as long as you can hear me, all right, we're good. All right, so let's get back to it here. So that's what it's saying here. All right, if we're paying attention to it, this is what it's actually saying. I'm going through it now. Trey, thank you for being here. If you want to come up, please do so as well. The link is in the chat, and let's have a conversation. All right, I'm trying to get this out here. All right, here we go. So, and with Trey being an ex-officer, he will be able to give some insight if he's available. Guys, I had some technical difficulties about 30 seconds ago, so if you didn't hear me, I apologize. All right, so, all right, that's how that goes. Okay, so we're good to go. All right, now, going back to what I said previously, it says black on black crime is literally just crime. I want to make sure that we pay attention to that, all right? Because it says here, oftentimes when people bring up black on black crime, they are implying that black people are more violent towards each other than any other race. This is wrong because nearly every race is likely to be deleted by their own due to proximity. 82.4% of white people are deleted by white people. This is due to the fact that many neighborhoods in America are still segregated by race. Of course, if one day you decide to delete someone, you're probably going to delete someone who lives in the area and looks like you. Why is it that no one mentions white on white crime? Trey, I would love to have you on that part. When a white person deletes a white person, that's because the phrase black on black crime is only used to stomp down on the black community and no one else. It is famous to say. It's a catchy phrase, right? Black on black crime, that's catchy, right? It's catchy. All right. So then let's get to the second part here where it says black on black crime is a symptom of systematic racism. The issue on black crime is often pinned on black people. The logic is that maybe if you guys just stop killing each other, the problem would end. What people don't think about is that the root of the black on black crime, black people killing each other at a high rate, is a direct output of white supremacy. This is what it's saying here. All right. I would love to have you up, Trey. Come on, man. I would love to have you up here. Okay. I understand, Trey. I got you, brother. I got you. All right. So crime is a result of, socioeconomic status, meaning that if you are poor, you are more likely to commit a crime. Black people are one of the two. Oh, man, y'all ain't going to believe who up in here right now. The information man is in the building.
What's up, man? I'm going to make a few points because I do have a live stream I'll be doing in a couple hours, or I'm pre-preparing right now for it. But I wanted to give a perspective. I know Trey was an officer, so he'll give that perspective when he comes up. But I want to give it from the other side, right? Because of what I see I'm in California, and we incarcerate more people than any other state, other than I think maybe Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. So just keep in mind, I've got over 20 years experience dealing with it from the other side. Brother Trey, officers, they arrest people that commit crime, but I see what happens to them on the other side of the ladder. Okay. And I also look at a lot of criminal files, what we call C files.
Right.
Now, keep this in mind. I'm basing it on my experience in California, but keep in mind we incarcerate more people than any other place in this country, damn near. What I've noticed when I've looked at C files of black incarcerated men versus white and other races or groups, there's been I'm going to cut through the myth. There's this notion, and we hear it on the YouTube streets, that black men are committing homicide rates are high amongst black people, and black men are just gunning down other black men and deleting them. Although that is a problem in some of and we need to start emphasizing this importantly, black men, because a lot of times we spend a lot of time and we'll say black people are this, black people are that. No, in some of our underprivileged or underfinanced, deprived black communities that are not living high on the social economic ladder, you are going to have higher crime. When Detroit had the car industry and black people migrated from the South to Detroit, and they were doing well because they could do what? They could buy a house, put their kid through school. You didn't have all this high crime in a place like Detroit until the motor industry collapsed. They took jobs out. Black men had no opportunities. And then, of course, drugs and all those things festered, because whenever you have no opportunity, no education, no job opportunities, that festers crime. And guess what? It happens in white communities. You know what we call those white communities? There are white people who live in trailer parks. In California, a majority of the people who live in trailer parks in general are white people. Guess what happens in trailer parks in California? They have high crime amongst white folks in those trailer parks. Okay? Keep this in mind, everybody. If you look at the latest FBI, now I'm not a fan of the FBI, but hey, they put it out there. Latest FBI statistics, I think from 2020, 2019, between that time, the overall population that commits the most crime overall are white people. However, we lead white people in homicide rates. They're somewhere around 46, 47%. We're somewhere in that 53%, which is not acceptable. But they are deleting each other. We're deleting each other at high rates because guess what? We get weapons that are put into our community. You look at Detroit, where are all the weapons coming from? Indiana.
Right.
So, and the difference is in those socioeconomically poor, deprived black communities, once again, you're going to have crime. People are going to go out there. And when people commit crime, you commit crime on people in close proximity to you. So you have white on white crime. You have Asian on Asian crime. Check this out. In California, see, you never hear about this because the media doesn't demonize other groups. Do you know in California, we got white gangs. We have a lot of Asian gangs out here. And the Asian gangs do what? Close to where I live at, the Asian gangs commit crime on other Asian people. They do it to their elderly because the elderly in their culture tend to leave money in the house. So they know their culture. So you have Asians that attack other Asians. We have Asian gang task forces in California, but they only tend to tell you that black people are the only ones that have gangs. When black people migrated from the South to the West Coast, guess where all the gangs were in South Central LA? It was white gangs. There was a lot of Europeans that came over from across seas. When black people migrated, they started hurting them, attacking them. So black men had to form protection against these white gangs in South Central LA that we call today, right? And then what happened is there was the first gang was called the Celestines before you had Bloods and Crips. I'm laying out that history because black people is not a propensity for just violence. Of course, in Chicago, remember when the Italians came over here and the Jewish people came over here, they had all type of organized crime where they were blowing each other up and down Chicago and New York with those Tommy guns. Nobody talks about that. Now, getting to the point here. In the prison environment that I work in, most of the black men that are in prison, Black Men Unfiltered and everyone listening, are in there from violation of their parole. Guess what? For drugs, marijuana, They enscound their parole status, right? I kid you not. I have seen black men's records where I work at, and I'll say, wow, he's in here because he violated his parole based on drug possession or selling drugs or what have you. A lot of it is non-violent crime in terms of physical violent crime on to other people's persons, right? Then you get a percentage of black men who did gun down. Guess who are the ones who are doing most of the gunning down or deleting of our people in this situation? Believe it or not, it's gang members, because gang members did what? Back in the 80s, they got the drugs came into the community, and then the gun play came into play. Before that, you didn't have gun play. You had people fighting with bats, maybe knives, or with their fists. So a lot of the guys that I see, black men, who do have the gun charges, 9 and 10 times, they tend to be gang members. The other guys that are not gang members are doing domestic stuff. They beat up their woman. I got tons of guys I deal with that are in there for sexual stuff, meaning they've harmed their girlfriend. They harmed their wife. They were a sexual deviant, right? That kind of stuff, right? Or they were selling drugs, and because they had all these other priors. When you see a lot of black men getting heavy time, they look at the priors, Black Men Unfiltered. They look at how often has this guy been in and out of the system. So let's say most of his crimes were petty, right? But then the judge in a conservative community is like, I'm tired of looking at his black behind. I'm getting you out of here. Right. So, and what I've seen in California, if you're tried as a black person in a conservative community, you get more time for the same crime that a white dude gets. I've seen it in the records. Wow. If you commit a crime in a more liberal community, you might get a different situation. Brother, let me tell you this. I can't tell you how many white dudes I've dealt with. When I looked at their records, most of it is harm to family. They say that black men are harming black women and harming our family. Most of the domestic abuse, according to FBI statistics, is done by white males, in terms of harming their children and their wives and their family. And most of the men that I've seen that have been white, they got gun charges. They've got sexual charges and doing those sort of things. So there's a lot of white men in prison, particularly in California, that are in there because they didn't gun down. They're plotting against their wife. They're plotting to delete their boss, every damn thing, right? And then you have a small percentage of black men that are doing that type of crime. But what happens is that because our community is magnified as a criminal community, everything that black people do negatively gets magnified that much more. So on the 10 o'clock news, you're not going to see the face of the white male. You see the face of the black male, even though white males are doing what in this society? They're most of the mass deleters. They're the mass deleters. Right. They're using the weapons, the AR-15. They're going into a school and saying, bam, 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 bam. And you notice nobody in America has said, what is wrong with the psychology of the white male? No one says, beware of the white man with the crew cut. Beware of the white men. No one's saying that because white men are doing this, okay? So that's what I see that comes across my table when I look at data that comes across my table. And most crime in general in prison is domestic type stuff. This is the problem, Black Men Unfiltered. People be looking at movies and TV shows, and those TV shows are giving you all this sort of out of the box type stuff. But the truth of the matter is we have a lot of people in our prison systems that are in there for petty crimes. For example, when Governor Brown was governor of California, he released a lot of people, and people weren't happy about this, but he released a lot of people out of California prisons because they found out that the prisons are overcrowded, but so many of the people in the prisons in California are in there for non-violent crimes. Right. I'm going to say it again. We have more correctional institutions in the state of California than probably any other state in the union. And the majority of the guys that are in there for more petty crimes. Of course, there's commercial burglary, burglary. When you go into someone's house and you burglarize someone's house, and Trey knows what I'm about to say here. If I was to go in your house, Black Men Unfiltered, and I was just going in there to rob you, I could get a heavy time. You know why? Because the law will see it as, even though I didn't have a weapon, there's a high propensity for something like death to happen, meaning me and you struggling in a fight, right?
Right.
So whenever you go into someone's house and do robbery when they're in the house, they're going to give you more enhancement on that because of the potential that someone could have been, a legal term is called murdered. So you have situations where you've had black men and other groups of men who have done robbery in a house, and then someone was in the house, and then that gets enhanced based on their priors or what have you. Okay. So, and depending on the type of crime that you get you do in California, even if you're a first time offender, they could throw 20 years at you. Okay. Remember, in California, we had the 3 strikes law. Do you know that a guy went to prison for the rest of his life on a 3rd strike for robbing pizza from someone at Pier 39 in San Francisco?
Damn.
Yes. And then they modified the law because they realized that too many people were being incarcerated under that law for doing petty stuff. Guess who took the brunt of that? Black men.
Yep.
So that's the case that I rest here before you and your audience. Please, folks, look up the numbers. Look at the FBI statistics. It breaks down by race, who commits certain crimes. And although black people, we got to stop engaging in crime, white people overall, I think it says 67% overall commit more crime overall than black folks in America. We're overall at around 37, somewhere in there percent. But we're very high in the homicide rates. We got to clean that up. We are harming each other, but other people harm each other. Italians harm them. Italian mafia, what do? They take out other Italians out. Asians harm Asians. How many of y'all look at the what's that show that comes on cable TV where they do these reenactments of crime? Most of the crime, you got white men who plot crime to take out their wife, their children, their family, every left and run. And most of the white men,
I think you talk about Snapped.
Right. Most of the white men that I have dealt with in over my 20 years, and I'm not capping, y'all, I'm not capping at all. When I looked at their C-files, once again, harming children, harming a child, pedophile type stuff, and they gunned somebody down. And guess who and when they gun the person down, you look at what race they are, they're white. When white people gun someone down, it's usually a white person, or how about this one for you? Or they gun down a black person. When black people harm someone, 9 and 10 times we're gunning down our own people. White folks are gunning us down, and they're gunning down their own people. I rest my case with that, brother. I got to get off the panel because I got to prepare for my program in a few hours here. But I just wanted to come up, drop that on you. You're doing great work here, Black Men Unfiltered.
Yes, sir.
And everybody needs to do the best thing y'all could do for this black man is y'all need to share out his video, right? Share it in social media platforms that you're familiar with, and put out the word about his channel and what he's all about. Please do that. And I'm going to do that as well on my channel, as I normally do every weekend. And I'm going to shout him out today when I go live and make sure that people get their behinds over here and support the channel. Absolutely. Everybody take care. I'm about to drop off. Hopefully Trey will come up and he will give you the perspective that I can't give you from a police perspective. I just gave you the perspective of what goes on, what goes on in the system when they're put in prison, and the things that I see that go on. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll be reaching out to you, man. I got some things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, we got to talk. I know I've been saying that, but we got to talk. I just gonna have to call you the number and talk to you straight up on the phone. Yeah, everybody take care. I hope that I was able to lay some fiber to the discussion today. Take care.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Information, man, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Dr. Nkumbe is in the. He said he would like to give a clinical perspective. Dr. Nkumbe, my big brother from another mother, is in the building. Thank you for being here today, and everybody else that just came in. Shout out to him. Shout out to World Class. If you see the link in the chat, you definitely can come up. I'll bring you guys up. We got Mike R in the building today. Mike, what's going on with you, brother, and how are you today, man?
Peace, family. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just came up real quick to share my thoughts. Information Man is 100% spot on. I live in the Las Vegas area, and I'll tell you right now, the statistics are very skewed in how they govern or show crime in America. Las Vegas has a lot, and I mean a lot, of white on white crime. They had like about a year ago, uh, there was a shootout on a highway between two biker gangs, and these biker gangs were white, and they did like maybe two reports on it, and you didn't hear nothing about it ever again. They quickly,
I remember that. I remember that.
yeah, I think it was between like the Hell's Angels and the Mongrels, or one of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of the crime that happens, particularly in Las Vegas, they focus a lot of the media attention on North Vegas and West Vegas, because that's the two areas where most of the African Americans live in this city, and it's just really really slick how they try to put a spotlight on, when there's a crime over there in the black side of town compared to other parts of the city where white people are more at, or it has to do with Mexicans or any other group. I'll tell you something else too. That whole part where Media Man was talking about LA. I don't know if anybody on the panel or anybody that's listening has ever heard of the Spook Hunters. The Spook Hunters were a white gang back in I believe it was the 1950s. And the Spook Hunters lived, I believe, in over there in that Slauson area back then. And when black families came to the West Coast from the South back in the 1940s and 50s and moved in and got those jobs in those plants, in the automotive industry out there in LA, a lot of black families were attacked and intimidated by gangs like the Spook Hunters back then. They're directly responsible for the start of basically the Crips. At the time, they were called the Slausons. Names like the Slausons, name like the Businessmen. The Businessmen, I believe, became the Avalon Gangster Crips. That's what they are now. A lot of these gangs were formed because of white aggression towards working class blacks. These were working class black people. They had just came from the South. They had just experienced racism down in the South. They were looking to get out and become part of the American society legitimately. And they were attacked everywhere they went. To all these different cities they would go to, white people would be waiting there to target them. So, I can make the, at least in LA, I can make the assessment that a lot of the LA gangs wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the white racism that they were shown. I mean, the Crips wouldn't have been a thing because they wouldn't have had to form these different organizations out of protection, out of fear from the aggression that they were faced up against. So, I'll say this in ending. A lot of the black crime, if you really look at it again, Information Man laid out the statistics. Everyone can go look at them. It's crimes of either passion, like a personal thing, like he was saying, where it's domestic, or crime of economic opportunity. Because of the lack, like again, a lack of economics, pushing out the jobs, urban renewal, redlining, blockbusting. We all know about those racist policies and things throughout American society that targeted black people, that kept them out of the economic market, the house buying market. All these things you can look up, and see where the policies made it very, very hard for African Americans to achieve on a legitimate level. Not excusing it. I think that we need to step it up as far as, how we do things and how we deal with difficult situations. I think one way to do it is to get away from this all-inclusive ideal in the black community, that we're all inclusive, like the Black and Brown Coalition. I think black people should do their own thing. I'm a conservative. I think we should do our own thing. I think we should adopt the Second Amendment and start policing our own communities. I think that we need more of a policy that directly speaks to our existence in America, which is the direct descendants of slaves. You know, we need that reparational kick to start us back up economically so that we can have our own businesses, employ other Black people as well. We need Black corporations where we can hire hundreds and hundreds of Black men and women to come into the fold and work as a working force, monopolize our own working force and get them away from these other companies and have them work directly for the community. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for having me coming up, brother. Salute to your channel. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. If you haven't liked or subscribed, man, I would appreciate it that you do that. And if you have a channel, you can go ahead and tell everybody what your channel is before you get out of here.
Oh, I don't have a channel. I'll be on all kinds of panels, and you know, I listen to you sometimes in the clouds. You know what I'm saying? You have
Absolutely.
really good material, brother. I'm very familiar with your channel. I'm very familiar with Information Man. So as soon as I saw you guys up here chopping it up, like I said, I just wanted to come in and, you know, second what he said, because he's absolutely on the ball with this thing. You know, things can be skewed. And, you know, we really need to look at the information, look at the history, and then judge from there. Let's not just go along with this, you know, Black people are innately violent. That wasn't the case. We can look at photos and pictures of us back in the 1940s and 50s, see our women fully dressed, see our men fully dressed and ready to go out there. This culture is the way it is because of a lack of opportunity and economics that has been passed for years and years and years and generations. And we need to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. All right, shout out to Mike, man. Thank you for your perspective. I appreciate it, brother. Now, we have two more perspectives, and then I'll get out of here. I'll get out of you guys' hair for today. And thank you guys again for being here. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe button. It means a lot to the channel. I appreciate everybody that's supporting the channel as well. I have two of my brothers up here that I consider family, Trey and Dr. Nkumbe is in the building. Now, from a clinical perspective, Dr. Nkumbe was here first. From a clinical perspective, Dr. Nkumbe will give you that. And then from a police perspective, Trey will give you the perspective from a law enforcement's perspective on what we're talking about today. So Dr. Nkumbe, you have the floor, and then we'll get over to Trey, and then we'll be out for the day. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I'm thankful for you having this conversation, and hello to those in the chat. Glad to be up here, my brother, man. Just wanted to offer a perspective that is in addition to what's been said already. And this perspective comes from my work as a board-certified forensic counselor and the work that I do with the courts, probation officers, and assessors. And when they assess people who've engaged in violent crimes, to include CSC or criminal sexual crimes.
Right.
And there are people who, believe it or not, you can steal a Snickers bar and actually they'll increase your, so let's say you're rated a 1, 2, or 3 as far as threat of violence. They'll increase your number because of that theft of a Snickers bar and kindly invite you back into the system, either corrections and or locked treatment. And what they do to score some of these things, and part of the reason our community specifically ranks high in these areas, as far as it ties into mental health, they look at not only what is the ability to do the crime, but mental health wise. See, it takes, you heard that expression, it takes like 6 months to gain 30 pounds and probably double or triple that time to lose the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So psychologically, if it took you X, Y, and Z to commit, it probably take you double or triple to change your value system and the mentality. So one of the things we would look at is your empathy and lack of concern for others. So when you steal a Snickers bar, it doesn't sound like a violent crime. However, the fact that you didn't take into consideration the store owner, the loss to the store, property loss, the cost it makes for the Snickers bar, the how it impacts the community, all those things because of your lack of concern for others. And that actually scores against you. Impulsivity, theft, you want what you wanted when you wanted it. Oh, okay, so that's how you operate. The crime itself is one thing. When we do the assessment, we would add in the ability for this person to actually pause, critically think, problem solve, and engage in a different behavior, to look at how they feel, how they think, and how they act. Oh, that's impaired. That adds time. They welcome you back to the system, either correctional or locked treatment. Your negative emotions. It just takes one interview and for us to hear how you're the victim in the situation. You're the victim. So even though you can name these things that are going on in the community, you can name these things about programs that have been cut, programs that are not provided to you, so on, so on, so on, so, and they may be 1,000,000,000% accurate. But guess what we hear from a clinical perspective? We hear that you're victim stancing and you're blaming. Let's invite you back into the system where you could take some time to think about it. However, in the correctional facility, you may or may not receive that treatment. If you're lucky, there are some programs that might have a treatment program in there. Some do, most do not. So not only do we look at your negative emotions, we look at what are you preoccupied with. If you live directly in the community, guess what you're surrounded by? You're surrounded by all these ideas, all these, the value system, the beliefs, the practices. So you're damned if you did and damned if you didn't. I look at your social network. Oh, so you really don't have any positive social supports. So I'm actually considering fate based on who you hang around. Who you hang around, the community you live in, the lack of resources that you have. I take that into consideration about, well, if you're back in the community, you're right back in the same spot where you started. So why have you out there causing ruckus when we could just have you in the system? Your willingness to cooperate with probation. Now, how many times have we heard our people say, I don't trust the system? Duh, but guess what? That's one of the things they evaluate and use against you. I mean, again, you're damned if you did and damned if you don't. If you don't participate, we have the answer for you. If you don't go along, we have the answer for you. And if you do go along, hell, you almost were better off not going along because of all the trials and tribulations you had to go through. I'll just name a couple more of these things and I'll let it go. Your again, your track history with mental health support. Have you been going to counseling? I don't know if you hear people who they had a drink, and before they go to court, they quickly do what? They join up for one of them DUI classes. They quickly go see someone and have a chemical health assessment because the lawyer said by the time you get to court, we want to show that you've taken some action to deal with these things. How many times have you heard people who go rushing to see a counselor or a therapist quickly before court, wanting to be proactive? And so the courts look at how are you managing the internal stimuli that pops up. You're just as dangerous if you think about it and don't know how to stop it. If you don't know how to stop your thoughts and then engage in these behaviors, you're just as dangerous as the person who's actually committing the crimes. And then substance use. Okay, so we have medical and recreational use. Recreational use. They're signing off on recreational use for people who can't even handle their day-to-day activities, but they're adding this stuff. And I'm not here to bash it. What I'm here to say is they take that into consideration. That's another thing. Your judgment is impaired. You can't think straight because of the substance. Anything from the THC to alcohol to your meth use, your crack use, and now even worse, fentanyl. So these are elements that they don't tell you about. They will not tell you about. They'll send you for a psych eval. They'll ask you if you're interested in getting more support or more help. Domestic violence, they'll do the same thing. Ma'am, historically, ma'am, are you interested? No, I'm good. No worries. That's documented. You declined the additional psychological support that we're willing to offer you. So the next time you are considered the victim, you say, man, it seems like I have to be killed before you guys do something about it. Because based on the records that you don't see, these clinical things were not taken care of. So we consider you to be a continued problem. So just wanted to offer the community that from a clinical perspective, what they don't talk about in the courtrooms when they send you for these assessments, and how they add that reasoning to their justification for putting you behind bars.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nkumbe, for coming in today and giving that from a clinical perspective. We had an all-star cast today. We had Information Man come in and give it from a perspective because he works with these men who get arrested. Then we have Dr. Nkumbe coming in from a forensic psychology perspective, giving his perspective. And now, last but not least at all, my brother Trey is in the building, and he was a police officer. MP in the Army, and then a police officer, and so he's seen a lot of this men getting arrested. So I'm very excited to hear what he has to say as well. So Trey, welcome to the show today, my brother. What is your perspective on this matter?
Well, first of all, I guess it's good afternoon where I'm at. It's 3:46 p.m. So
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Look, here's the thing: proximity crime is proximity crime, and this is something that I had to learn because the police departments will brainwash you. They will lead you to believe that this is a big issue. We got a huge problem. This black on black crime, and this is a big. No, it's just proximity. I worked in D.C. In D.C., we had a certain part of D.C. that had a large Hispanic community. Guess what? A lot of crime, proximity crime. There's a Chinatown in D.C. Guess what? Proximity crimes, right? So it is what it is when it comes down to that. A lot of what was said by Information Man is factual. There's not really much to argue there. There's not really much to contend there. What I would add in is that I think that our people have to look at this and understand that you are being brainwashed. The media is doing a job. They're doing it on purpose. They like to sensationalize black on black crime, when in actuality, that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is not black on black crime. And when I am out, I'm not looking at the guy who's sagging his pants and got, his hair braided up. I'm not fearful of those guys. You know what I'm fearful of? I'm fearful of the white guy wearing a trench jacket in 90-degree weather. That's the guy that I'm scared of. That's the guy I'm keeping my eye on, because there's a propensity to commit violence when guys who look like that. I will say this, though. When you are dealing with black officers, you have to understand that a lot of the times there's a level of survival within a police department, right? They have to do their job. They have bills to pay. They have a mortgage. They have kids. They have a wife, right? And so a lot of the times, black officers get it really bad, right? I've been spit on. I've been punched and kicked and whatnot.
Wow.
And it looks as though we don't want to help our community. That we're just towing the line. When a lot of times, if you're pulled over by a black officer, you may be able to get away with some things. There's a lot of tickets I did not write. There's a lot of arrests I did not make, right? Because I understood the community a lot better than maybe my white counterpart who's from South Carolina or who's from Alabama. He doesn't understand our people. He doesn't understand our culture. But this black on black thing, it's a myth. It's been a myth for a while. It's been debunked. There are other ethnicities that commit crimes on each other on a far larger scale. But we get sensationalized because advertisers like to do that to us. They like to make money off of the backs of black crime, black denigration. They enjoy it because it pays well. And at some point in time, our community has to look up and realize that we're being used to make a lot of money, and it's not in a good way. And so we have to change that. But other than that, proximity is what it is. And there's also a statistic that says that most people will die within 50 miles of where they grew up. So that's a proximity issue, right? When I was in the military, guess what? All the crimes that were against military members typically came from other military members, right? That's proximity. So we need to get past this black on black. It's a fun phrase to say for those people who are reporting the news at 11. It's easy for people to identify with when they watch the news and see it, but it's ultimately a load of crap. If I worked in a black neighborhood, in which I did, of course I'm going to arrest far more black people. The majority of the people in that neighborhood are black, right? But if I went uptown DC, where the majority of people are white, guess what I'm arresting up there? I'm arresting white people, right? So a lot of this is crap, and I don't feed into it, and I won't repeat a lot of what Information Man said, because a lot of what he said was on point. But a lot of it's BS.
Right. And two things I want to say to you before you get out of here, before we end the show today. I was reading it. It says black on black crime is literally just a crime. Oftentimes when people bring up black on black crime, they're implying that black people are more violent towards each other than any other race. This is wrong, because nearly every race is likely to be deleted by their own due to proximity. This is the part right here, Trey. 82.4% of white people are killed by white people. This is due to the fact that the many neighborhoods in America are still segregated by race. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. Listen, you know, here what on Tuesday you're gonna be celebrating the 4th of July, right?
Right.
I remember being on duty, and 4th of July is there's 2 days that'll drive you nuts as an officer. It's the 4th of July and it's New Year's Eve going into the New Year's morning, right?
Right.
There's a lot of gunplay. You're gonna hear a lot of what you think is fireworks, they're not actually fireworks, right?
Right.
But guess what? I can also go into the Indian community. They're going to do the same thing. I can go into the white community, the trailer park. They're going to be doing the same exact thing. But what will happen is that you will see, or in the news, you will see, 14 dead in D.C. They just did it the other day. Baltimore had a mass shooting. I was on the treadmill. CNN's covering it, right? And I'm like, really? So Baltimore's the only one that's got mass shootings over the weekend? They do this to Chicago. Every weekend they do this to Chicago. It's just crime. It's no more different than any other community. I would love to see the statistics of these full-on white communities, because I know there's a ton of crime there. And I do agree, a lot of this has to do with socioeconomic levels. A lot of these people, they're not at work. They're hanging out all day. They're what's the phrase? Idle hands is the devil's work. Is that correct?
It says an idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have anything to do. And when you send, like when I worked in DC, they would send this little employment bus, right? this little employment bus would come through and supposed to sign people up for jobs. It was BS, man. They weren't really trying to help people in the community, man, and try to help them get jobs. They just, a lot of this is smoke and mirrors. And I have to explain that about the police world. A lot of this is to make it look good, when in actuality they're not actually doing anything. But I completely agree. Black on black crime is just crime. It's no different than any other community.
All right. And then the last thing, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but the last thing I wanted to share with you is what we talked about. Bill, here he is.
Kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million. Because they keep getting returned to the streets. Like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct? Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, what are you doing?
All right, Trey, if you were on that panel that night with Bill Maher, what would you have said as an ex-police officer to him?
I would say that Bill Maher is off target. I think I've seen more than enough black entertainers speak out about violence within the communities. I'm not exactly sure what they're expecting for these entertainers to do. They're not superheroes. I think I call it a Bruce Wayne complex. I think that a lot of people think that these celebrities are going to be rich during the day and they're going to suit up and be Batman at night and go save Gotham. That's not how it works, right? Their job is to speak on it. In most cases, they speak on it. Now, here's the problem. A lot of the entertainers are hypocrites, because they say one thing, but then they rap or they sing about another thing. So that's a lot of the issue, right? But most of the times, these guys do speak out about crimes within the community. I remember when you had Freddie Gray that passed away. Carmelo Anthony was in the streets walking with him. You know what I mean? Marching with him. A lot of them do speak out. You also have to understand that people are going to do what they want to do. You can have as many entertainers as you want. People are going to do what they want to do. Some of them will listen, some of them won't. Entertainers only have but a small bit of influence to a certain degree, right? I think when it comes to fashion trends or other stuff like that, yeah, they have a large influence. A lot of times when it comes down to political stuff and criminal stuff, they're not really listening. I think what you have to do here is you have to change the system. He made a point that 327 people are committing these crimes. You can't tell me that there isn't a employment opportunity to help 327 people. You can't tell me. Out of,
Right.
8 million people live in New York. We can't find jobs for 327 people who are
Right.
committing crimes. I think
Right.
we can. I don't think we're trying hard enough. And I think that at some point in time, listen, I've said this before, crime is good for politicians. People don't understand that. When a mayor wants to run for an office, or when a senator wants to run for an office, they need crime, because that gives them a talking point to say, hey, look, I'm going to lower crime. And if you actually look at what they're actually doing, most times they don't lower crime at all. They don't do anything, right? but they need a good talking point. So crime is, I hate to say it, but crime is good for business for politicians. They don't really. I was in D.C. It was Mayor Muriel Bowser. Ask me how many times she came to the hood. Once. She came
Wow.
once. And a
Wow.
week before she came, they had the street sweepers out. They were planting flowers. I was like, what the hell's going on around here? They making the neighborhood look clean, because all she was gonna do was walk around for an hour. Like they don't truly. I can't speak for other cities. I can only speak for DC because that's where I work. These politicians truly don't care, and crime is good for them because it gives them something to speak on. Mayor Brandon Scott in Baltimore is on the news every other day, talking about what needs to be changed. He's been saying the same thing for years. If they could affect policies if they wanted to, but they're not going to, because at some point in time they're realizing that people are capitalizing off of this. And until that changes, we're going to see more, and I'm using air quotes here, we're going to see more black on black crime. And it's going to be sensationalized on the news. It's going to continue to get publicized. But I'm not putting this on entertainment. I do think they have a part in it. They don't have a large part in it. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that a lot of these people just aren't making money. Shoplifting is a crime, typically a crime where people don't have anything. Everybody that I've ever arrested that had shoplifting charge, they were poor, they were broke. A lot of people hadn't ate in days. A lot of people that I arrested, when I asked, when's the last time you ate? Oh, it's been 3 days. It's been 2 days. And it's just like, well, and I'm sitting there like, well, you know what I mean? Like, listen. And what I would do is, we could do in DC, we could do what was called warrant cases. Let me tell you a little thing I used to do. We could do warrant cases, which means I didn't have to make an immediate arrest right then and there. I take your name, as long as you had an ID with an address, right? I could make what's called a on-scene arrest, right? Take your name, and then I can go do a warrant later. I never did the warrants. And most of the time I would go in and say, if you're hungry, go grab something. And, I'll pay for it, or we'll figure it out. If that was the case, if somebody told me I hadn't eaten 2 days, and I went in and stole a hot dog from 7-Eleven because I was hungry. I stole some chips because I was hungry. I stole some juice because I was hungry. My conscience wouldn't allow me to make that arrest and go through with it, because to me, that's a problem of the system. Ask me, when's the last time you worked? Oh, I got fired 4 years ago. It's been hard to find work. Or I got arrested. It's been difficult. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of other things going on here, black man. And a lot of it could be fixed if we just get people some jobs, get them jobs they actually could do, can make some money on. But a lot of these cities, like I said, it's smoke and mirrors. They make it look like they're doing it, but they're not actually doing anything.
Wow, man. Well, I really appreciate that perspective, my brother. You coming in and dropping it. Before you go, world class says if they wanted to reduce crimes, they'd empower fathers. Yeah. So, man, it's crazy, brother. But I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming. I know your day's probably busy. This was a pop-up live. This is when scheduled. I was just watching some. I happened to see Bill Maher talking about this, and I said, you know what? Let me just go and do a quick live real quick for an hour or so, and have this conversation. So thank you so much, Trey, for coming. Thank you, Dr. Nkumbe, for your perspective as well. Thank you, Information Man, and everybody who watched today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the channel. If you have not subscribed, please do so. If you know other people who would like content like this and what we offer throughout the week, please share with them and have them like and subscribe as well, as we continue to grow slowly, but we're growing surely. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for everything that you do. Black on black crime, guys. As you heard from an ex-police officer who has been in the streets, he said is a myth. It is a myth. So that was from Trey. Trey stated that black on black crime is a myth. Dr. Nkumbe gave you a perspective that was amazing. As he talked about the clinical perspective, forensic clinical perspective of what he dealt with people in those situations. And then Information Man, who works with the men who have been arrested, came in and stated as well that it is a myth. Man Williams just came in. He said, "Black people stop killing black people." Man, I inspire you to go back and watch the show, because we had 3 people who are very credible, who work with men who have been arrested for any crime, which is Information Man. He works on the other side of that. Then we have a clinical perspective from Dr. Nkumbe on why these things are happening. And then we had an ex-police officer, Trey, come in and give his perspective. All 3 perspectives were on point on why these things are happening. All right. Now, E-Man, yes, black people do kill black people. However, we're talking about the light that's shined on it, the light that is shined on it versus the light that is shined on other crimes. Now, statistically speaking, I had them up on the screen earlier. I have them here now about that from the department, the U.S. Department of Justice. And we were reading it, and it states here, it says, oftentimes when people bring up black on black crime, they're implying that black people are more violent towards each other than any other race. This is wrong because nearly every race is likely to be deleted by their own due to proximity. So yes, it does happen, but we also have to put into the perspective 82.4%. That is a high number. Let's talk about that number. 82.4% of white people are deleted by white people. All right. This is due to the fact that many neighborhoods in America are still segregated. So yes, black people are, but 82% of white people are killed by white people, and you never hear that in the media. They shine a light on the black on black crime because it makes them money. It's very profitable. As Mike R came up and said, it's black, miserable black people are profitable. It's profitable to have them in the news. It's profitable to shine a bigger light on a problem. Right. So it's just, we have to stop shining the light and saying black on black crime. Oh my God, black on black crime. Nobody's saying white on white crime. And I'm looking at the numbers here. The Department of Justice reported 82.4% of white people are killed by white people. That is a fact. 82.4% of white people are killed by white people. Right? Their number is way higher than ours. And so I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we focus so much on that. But I will say this in the end of my soliloquy here, and then we'll shut the show down. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. Watch, the black on black crime is only mentioned as a rebuttal to the people being concerned about police brutality. However, what people don't realize is that you can focus on both issues at the same time. Many people ignore the fact that black activists are doing the local grassroots work to end violent crime in black neighborhoods while also protesting police brutality. Both are important issues that plague our communities and can be focused on one by one. To conclude the show here, guys, it is very disappointing to see people subscribe to the black on black crime narrative, especially black people. We need to analyze how this language is used as a divisive tactic to make us turn against each other. Both police brutality and black on black crime are the results of the same monsters. White supremacy and systematic racism. Instead of blaming each other, let's get to the root of the problem and continue fighting for the end of systematic racism. Right? All right. So, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Edaman Williams. Thank you, World Class, for being here. High Value Wise just popped in. Thank you so much. She said, I thought that black people commit 60% of all crimes. I'm confused. That is been debunked today. Miss High Value Wives. We had an ex-police officer on today. Please go back and watch the show. It's very educational. We had an ex-police officer today who was in the streets, who was in black neighborhoods, who debunked the fact of all the narratives spinning about black people that puts us as number one for we committing the most crimes. Oh, no problem. High Value Wise. I want you to go back and watch it because it's very, very good. We had Information Man come in and also give a perspective because he worked with these men who became arrested, and he looks at it on the other side. And then he also put into perspective here. Mike R came in and put in perspective as well that the system, how the system is. And Information Man says something so beautiful. He said that a majority of those men who he worked with who get arrested in California, most of those men are in jail. A large 70% of them, 75% of them are in jail for non-violent crimes, meaning they didn't take nobody's life. But he said the media and the perspective is put out that the majority of the crimes are violent crimes. And they're not. So thank you so much again to Information Man. Thank you to Mike R for coming in. Thank you to Trey coming in and giving his perspective. Thank you in the chat, everybody that came. I called everybody's name today. Thank you, Eva Man Williams, for the $4.99 super chat. I appreciate you. He said showing some love. Thank you, big brother. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for coming in and enjoying the show as well. Guys, if you didn't get a chance to watch the show, please go back in the beginning and watch it. It's very, very, very educational today. And I'm glad that I had an opportunity to share the stage with such great men today. All right. So thank you, guys. This has been another Black Men Unfiltered Network episode. Unfiltered, reactions today to Bill Maher and what he said about Black on Black crime. Please go back and watch it. Please go back and share it. You have permission to definitely use this information on your own shows if you need be. Just let me know, and we'll go from there. But at the end of the day, man, I appreciate each and every one of you. Blessings to all of you. May God bless you and keep you. And may all of you prosper and be great with your lives. Be great moms, be great fathers, be great to your children, be great to your spouses, and be great in your community. This has been another Black Men Unfiltered Network episode of Unfiltered Reactions. Peace.
Go. Fire by night and a pillar of vapor by day. Walk through the desert, but when you admire the light, see the villains are paper mache. I'm on the way to the promised land, no contraband. I'm an honest man, I'm coming. Have y'all met me? I'm set free, playing my part like the Red Sea. Man, I'm from heaven, I'm here with my brethren. The volume's 11, now we're getting rowdy. Swing from the scaffolding, spiritual happenings, miracles